In the year 2000, a small startup with no stores, no employees behind a counter, and barely any customers walked into a meeting with the biggest video rental company in the world. They had one offer: buy us for $50 million. The company they were meeting with had over 9,000 stores. It was a household name in nearly every town in America. Its executives laughed the startup out of the room. That startup was Netflix. The company that turned them down was Blockbuster. 11 years later, Blockbuster was bankrupt. Netflix was worth more than $13 billion. This is the story of how the biggest name in movie rentals looked a $50 million chance to buy its own future in the face and said no. To understand this story, you have to go back to the 1980s, when renting a movie meant driving to a store, hoping the title you wanted wasn't already checked out, and hauling a bulky VHS tape home for the weekend. Blockbuster launched in 1985 and quickly became the dominant player, eventually growing to over 9,000 stores worldwide. Blue and yellow signs became a genuine part of American culture. Friday nights, family movie picks, the smell of popcorn and plastic cases. But Blockbuster's business model had a quiet flaw baked into it from the start: late fees. Customers hated them, but the company loved them. At its peak, late fees made up a significant chunk of annual revenue. The company had built an empire partly on charging people extra for being a few days late. It worked for a while. Blockbuster was profitable, massive, and seemingly untouchable. Nobody imagined a tiny DVD by mail service could ever be a real threat. Netflix started in 1997 with a simple, almost boring idea: rent DVDs by mail. No store visit required. No line. No risk of the title being out of stock. Just a red envelope showing up at your door. But the real disruption wasn't the mail order model itself. It was the pricing. Netflix charged a flat monthly subscription. No due dates. No late fees. Ever. That one decision struck directly at Blockbuster's most profitable and most hated feature: customers who were tired of being charged for a 2-day late. Returns started quietly switching over. Netflix grew steadily through the early 2000s. But the real transformation came later: streaming. Starting in 2007, Netflix began offering instant online video, no disc required at all. While Blockbuster was still managing physical inventory across thousands of stores, Netflix was building the infrastructure for a future where nobody would need to leave their couch or even own a disc to watch anything. In 2000, Netflix co-founder Reed Hastings flew to Dallas to meet with Blockbuster's executives, proposing a partnership. Netflix would run Blockbuster's online brand, and Blockbuster would promote Netflix in its stores. The asking price was $50 million. Blockbuster executives reportedly found the idea almost laughable. At the time, Blockbuster was generating billions in annual revenue. $50 million for a tiny mail-order DVD company seemed like an absurd ask, not a bargain. They said no. It's easy, looking back, to see this as an obvious mistake. But at the time, Netflix was small, unproven, and DVD by mail seemed like a niche compared to Blockbuster's massive retail footprint. The bigger failure wasn't really that one meeting. It was what came after. Blockbuster had years of warning signs, and repeatedly chose to protect its existing store-based business instead of adapting. Blockbuster wasn't blind to the threat. It tried to respond. In 2004, it launched its own DVD by mail service and even eliminated late fees, years after Netflix had already built its reputation on doing exactly that. But by then, it was playing catch-up on both price and brand trust. Customers had already learned to associate Blockbuster with the fees they resented. Meanwhile, the company was carrying enormous debt from its retail expansion and store leases, while Netflix had no physical stores weighing it down at all. As streaming grew through the late 2000s, Blockbuster tried again, launching its own on-demand service, but it was years behind, underfunded and stretched. between managing thousands of physical stores and building new technology at the same time. In September 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. By 2014, the last company-owned stores had closed. Today, a single Blockbuster store remains open in Bend, Oregon, kept alive mostly as a nostalgic curiosity, a living museum of what the company used to be. It's tempting to tell this story as a simple villain narrative, a company too greedy or too foolish to see what was coming. But the more useful lesson is quieter than that. Blockbuster wasn't destroyed by one bad decision in a Dallas boardroom. It was destroyed by choosing, again and again, to protect a profitable business model instead of building the one customers actually wanted next. Netflix, meanwhile, was willing to disrupt its own early success, moving from DVDs by mail to streaming, even though the mail business was still working, because it understood that standing still is its own kind of risk. Blockbuster once had the money, the brand, and the customer base to build the future of video streaming itself. Instead, it spent over a decade protecting late fees and store leases, until there was no future left to build. Sometimes the biggest risk isn't taking a chance on something new, it's refusing to. Blockbuster isn't the only giant that watched its own future walk through the door and turned it away. Subscribe if you want to see which company we cover next. This is a series about the moments that changed everything, one collapse at a time.